the royal
We do nothing
public.
wrong. I mean, we're just perfectly reacting to it. Everyone else is wrong.
Obviously. That's the point of this podcast, is that we are right and people should listen to us. There's your clip, business boys. There's your show promo clip.
Hello and welcome to HR Confessions. I'm Rebecca Taylor.
And I'm Kim Rohrer. We are bringing you unfiltered perspectives from the world of HR with real stories and hopefully some good advice.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. A girl can dream.
Yeah. So this story was actually submitted months ago, and now I think is kind of the perfect time to tell it. I've been sitting on it for a little bit just because I wanted the timing to be right.
Sometimes, when you know, and it wasn't ready.
Yeah,
it wasn't ready yet.
Exactly.
All
This
right.
tale covers all the good stuff. It's got employee disengagement. It's got a combative CEO, and it's got HR being a Cassandra. So if you're not familiar with who Cassandra is, she was a Greek prophet who was blessed with the ability to see the future, but carried the curse of not being believed. So she knew it was going to happen. She'd tell people, and no one ever believed her. And if I ever had a character that described HR any better, everyone talks about Toby Flenderson. I'm like, Cassandra is the original HR person in my mind.
It's true. And I have to give credit where credit is due. This idea of Cassandra being HR, what first came to me through our mutual friend, Stacey Nordwall, who made a Greek mythology characters. She chose a couple and was like, which one is your HR persona? And I just fell in love with the idea of Cassandra being an HR person. And thank you, Stacey, for this gift that keeps on giving.
And Stacey's so good at that stuff. That's why, if you're listening to this podcast, if you want to listen to Stacey's podcast too, it's called Tutor Boot. Listen to Tutor Boot because Stacey's got
so good.
All the references, the connections. She's a gem. So yeah, thank you, Stacey. Oh, you're ready for the story of Cassandra?
I hope so.
Although I didn't name her Cassandra in the story. In hindsight, I probably should have, but we're just going to roll with it. So
let's do it. We're very good at our jobs, people.
We are. So I'm going to start by saying the air was different in the mid 2010s because like many of our stories, that's when this one takes place. So we're in a major West Coast city, more specifically in an area just outside the said city, the cradle of innovation, if I may. If you have any idea of where I might be talking about.
The cradle of innovation. Love it. Great. I'm there with you.
Yeah. Our HR hero today is named Megan. Okay. Megan's a director of people at a tech company of about 200 people. Okay. So she's been in HR for about 7 years, working her way up the ladder as we do after starting as a recruiter. But we know how it goes at tech companies of 200 people in this particular place, in this specific city, at this particular time. And now, a quick word from our sponsor, SkillCycle. SkillCycle is a talent development system that connects performance management to one-to-one coaching and development. The SkillCycle platform aligns individual growth with business objectives through continuous feedback, AI-powered development paths, and leadership training. As a SkillCycle co-founder, I'd love to talk to you out there in our audience, progressive people leaders who really get it. Let's chat over coffee on us to give us some feedback on the episode and about the challenges you're facing today. You might just contribute to a topic on our next episode. Email us today at hrconfessions@skillcycle.com. That's hrconfessions@skillcycle.com.
The wild, wild west.
Yes.
Money for everyone.
Yep.
Except HR.
You get the director of people title, but you're spending 99% of your time doing one thing, recruiting. Just recruiting all the time and maybe every once in a while doing some people work.
Right.
So Megan is sort of okay with this because she's a really good recruiter. It's how she got to where she is. She's really good at it. But she really wanted to grow in HR because she wanted to make more of an impact on an employee's full experience at the company, not just up until they start, which I can relate so much to that because that's why I went from talent acquisition to what I did. So I hear this and I'm like, same, Megan, same. And she did what a lot of people do when they're trying to make that transition and make that change. She got some certifications and it exposed her to other elements of HR. So she did her standard SHRM, PHR, whatever, sort of the core HR ones. But then she also did what I think is a really smart one to have the awareness to do this when you're kind of that early. She did a change management certification.
Ooh.
So, right. So I assume you're a change management pro, as most HR people are. So I'm going to put you on the spot here.
Great.
what are some of the most important elements of change management that you can think of as I put you on the spot here?
I'm going to go with empathy, communication, foresight, negotiation. I was going to say mind reading, but foresight. And the ability, this is not a one-word answer, but the ability to balance business need and people need.
Yes.
As you're looking at what changes need to happen, the ability to balance what's best for the business with how it's going to impact employees.
Yeah. Well said. Those are like all the little sort of components and pieces of it too that make it work or make it not. So I'm certified in ProSize ADKAR model, which is like, I feel like I remember that as well as I remember those mnemonic devices from when you were a kid. Like for some reason, it just sticks there and I'm going to let it stay in my brain as long as humanly possible.
Amazing.
So if for anyone who might not know, ADKAR stands for awareness, desire.
It's me. I do not know.
It means awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. So that's like the cycle of like how change has to happen. And you can look at it from like any, part of life. There's actually one of the ways that I learned it was there was this book about penguins and it was called The Iceberg is Melting. And it's like, there's one penguin like wakes up and is like, oh my God, our iceberg is melting. I have to tell people. And then these people have to believe me. And then they have to want to do something about it. Then we have to figure out how we should do something about it. Then we have to learn what we need to do to change it or leave the iceberg in this case. And then we have to like settle into our new iceberg land.
This penguin had also been through this training, apparently.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the easiest way for me to remember it, but it's important because there's so many ways that change can just go awry and can go wrong. And from what I know from my experience, it's either at the end, the reinforcement. So it's like you launch something and then you kind of just move on to the next thing and forget about it. Or you get the awareness and desire part wrong and you have a hard time getting people on your side.
Yep.
So that's kind of the part that like basically that transition from awareness to desire is where our story takes place.
Amazing.
It's a cautionary tale on what can happen when that part goes wrong.
All right, let's get into it.
Okay. So here's something I want you to know about Megan. She loves data. She works for a data company. The company loves data, and they make all their money by selling data and data collection tools to their customers. So she's in a rare position where she actually has pretty good people data at her fingertips at all times. Cool. In the mid 2010s, like she's not even using spreadsheets. She's using like real tools, which is awesome.
That's awesome. Good job.
Yeah. So Megan has access to a lot of information about people and like how they come and go. So she knows why people take jobs there. She knows what they love about being there and why they stay. And on the flip side, she also knows why people don't accept offers, what they hate about their jobs and why they leave. So she's like this oracle for her exec team and her data is her crystal ball.
Yes. Oh, yes.
So that's where she's the Cassandra. That's where she's like, I know all these things.
Knowledge. Yes.
So a little less than a year before we meet Megan, the company had changed a lot of like the core components of how they worked. So in an effort to be more, I'm putting this in quotes, efficient, they removed a lot of meetings, including the all hands. They eliminated sprint cycles and they basically had everyone working in silos because they're like, this is going to be more effective because people can just be heads down and do their jobs.
People love being in silos. It's
right.
Historically, one of people's favorite places to be, siloed.
Oh, exactly. Especially at a company where you're all working towards a common goal. In one way or another.
Great strategy, no notes.
Yeah. And it was supposed to be temporary, as a lot of these things are. Like it was supposed to be a temporary experiment, kind of just like a way for the company to make up for some lost productivity, lost goals, whatever it was. But the experiment had now become business as usual and employees were becoming more disengaged by the day.
Yeah.
They were over it. They were burnt out, and because everyone's so disconnected, the success of a major project is at stake. So there's this thing that this company is working on. The success of it is at stake because everyone's like spiraling and spinning, or they're just so disengaged that they're not really even sure what their work is for. So the quality of their work isn't good. There's duplicate work being done and progress is happening a lot slower than it should because they keep on backtracking and then realizing that they skipped something. And, like it could be existential level bad if this doesn't get fixed. So Megan, our oracle, sees this.
Yeah.
Because she has all of this. She
wise.
sees. Yes. Exactly. And she sees that, there's disconnection happening across teams. She sees that there's goals being missed. She sees that there's the crossroads aren't happening. So she knows that something has to be done about it. So she goes from awareness to desire really quickly. Which is really common when you're the one who's, when it starts off with you, right? Like you're like, okay, I got to do something.
I'm glad she has the desire. What about the rest of the company?
It's more like a driving need.
Yeah.
And the thing is, she knows that she can't address the disengagement and disconnection on her own, right? Like she wasn't the one who made the decisions about this way of working in the first place. But even regardless of that, like at the end of the day, she doesn't manage these people. So she only has, HR can have a really big impact on how someone experiences their job. But when it comes to things like disconnection and disengagement, HR's role is really more in partnering with their leaders to make it better, because HR can't take on like a side hustle and trying to make people feel happy and then expect that to be like how they work.
Let's set some KPIs around happiness.
Right. And like, as we all know, a pizza party isn't going to be some magical cure for disengagement.
No,
we know people need to feel connected to each other and connected to their work so they can see that their efforts actually mattered. And mattering is like a big part of the whole thing.
Yes.
So she's like kind of thinking to herself, she's whipping out her certification. She's got her change management binder, her books. She's like, okay, let me see that there's got to be a process for this. So she's thinking, how do I go about getting my fellow stakeholders, my fellow executives to see this issue and to want to do something about it? So she knows that she needs to tell a good story using her data. She needs to suggest a solution, and she needs to open up the conversation with her executives for their input and commitment.
Yes.
So I ask you, how do you think this is going to go for Megan, an HR person presenting her executive team with an inconvenient truth?
For those who are not watching the video recording of this, as Rebecca was speaking, I was just nodding vigorously along with what she was saying, because yes, she's doing all the right things. She's got all the right things in place. And I do not think this is going to go well for her, because they are going to say, they're either going to look at the data and say, well, we still can't prioritize that right now, or they're going to say that the data doesn't show enough of a problem or enough of a trend, that there's going to be I think it's going to be hard for her to get the desire that she's looking for. She might raise awareness, but the desire, as you said, is inconvenient. Or what's the stuff that comes after desire? The action, the
knowledge,
the knowledge,
the knowing part. Knowing what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, most leaders that I've worked with, when you present them with this data, no matter how good of a story you tell them, it is not uncommon for HR leaders to be faced with, what are you going to do about it? And getting it to be what are we going to do about it as a leadership team is a much more difficult conversation.
Wait, are you saying that us versus them dynamics exist within workplaces?
No,
this is shocking.
I would never say such a thing. No.
And so up to this point, there's something that I'm going to comment on towards the end, because I'm just like, there's pieces of this that are kind of like, it's so easy in hindsight, and it's so easy when it's also not your story and it's not the thing that you did, to kind of be like, but
True.
So Megan puts all this work into presenting her data in a problem solution format. Yes. So she thinks she's put together a compelling narrative, and that her executive team will see where she's coming from, and that they'll agree that they should course correct and implement her suggested solution, which is basically for the record, her solution is basically just bring back some of the all hands meetings, reintroduce sprint cycles, and rally everyone around a central goal. Yeah. She's not exactly reaching for the moon here.
Jesus.
And she's not even asking for funding for anything, by the way. Her plan has nothing to do with asking for resources other than time, which we know is a resource, but it's more just using time more wisely. Just a note for Megan.
Listen, Rebecca, people don't like to change. Behavior change is really hard. If you tell them they're going to have to start doing something differently, they don't like it. And I say this as a Taurus who does not like to be told she has to do something differently. I empathize with the people who are like, don't tell us we have to change. That sounds painful. I get it. And also. And yet. Yes,
and yet.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's also there's different, I think that it does also take a certain level of a little bit even more than just empathy, but sort of true emotional intelligence to react to suggestions of change in a specific way. Because, you know, yes, people hate change. People hate to hear that something that they think is working isn't working, or they hate to hear that an idea didn't pan out the way that they thought it would.
Sure.
You know, but I do think that there's like a certain level of responsibility that when you get to a certain level of a company and in your career, like if you're an executive at a company making big decisions and managing people, you have to know how to self-regulate, because that's where this really starts to derail, which we're going to get, which we will get to. But that's like the part that
Train
like
off the tracks. I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. And so like she goes into her executive meeting ready to share her findings and do her thing. She assumes most of them already know that people are disengaged since they're the ones managing these people. So they have to see how chaotic things are because it has to be showing up in their day-to-day work, right?
It must be obvious.
Must be. So Megan's halfway through her first point before the CEO first interrupts her. So we're talking now. CEO of a mid-2010s tech company of around 200 people in a West Coast city. You're familiar with these. You worked in them before. What are their personalities like?
His name is Chad. He went to Stanford. He has no student loans because his parents paid for everything. And he thinks he's right. And he probably, this is his first startup, I'm going to guess.
I would imagine.
He got lots of VC funded based on the fact that he is a rich white man. And he hasn't been told no a lot in his life.
And this was also the era when VCs were giving founders like him so much money for no reason. So he's also incredibly, you know, he thinks he's right because so many people around him have told him that he is.
Yeah, of course.
And he hasn't really failed yet.
I don't know how I got so lucky that my first ever startup in 2010 did not have a CEO or a founding team like that.
That's awesome.
Maybe it's the universe. Maybe it's like attracts like. I don't know. But I have worked with CEOs like that before, and it does not work for me. And I got so lucky with Daniel and Jason at Discuss. Shout out to my favorite boys. Like, I feel every day I like thank my lucky stars that they were my first startup experience when I was a little baby office manager who wanted to do HR. We were like, I think we were like 24, 25. We were like little baby HR people. I didn't know what I was doing, but they were like, we also don't know what we're doing. We have a company now. Let's figure it out together.
Yeah.
And how different my career might have been had I instead had a Chad.
Yeah. It's like the change in the us versus them mentality, because you said, how do we figure it out? Let's we do it together. That makes all the difference.
It does.
Yeah.
Oh, poor Megan.
Poor Megan. So she's halfway through her first point. CEO interrupts her and he just goes, Megan, what the hell is this about? You know, like you could tell that they're like not listening, and then all of a sudden they're just like, wait, what the hell is this about? Just like, oh, like now you're paying attention. Okay.
Like, I thought I was in a different meeting about how great I am.
Right. It's like, okay. And she just started. She's barely into this. And she goes, this is about employee disengagement threatening our ability to succeed. You know, she's like, this is what I'm doing. And he goes, what does disengagement have to do with anything? Our issue is that people need to work harder. You know, a classic.
Yeah.
So she goes, asking people who are already working hard to work harder is only going to make the disengagement problem worse. People not liking their job, frankly, isn't a problem I care about. You know, Mr. Powerful.
I love it when people don't understand what disengagement even means. Like, you can not like your job and still be engaged.
Exactly.
You can love your job and be totally disengaged. Two very different things. And he did not read the agenda. He did not Google.
Did not read the agenda.
No.
Did not read the agenda. But this is also another note that I have for Megan that we could talk about later. So he goes, people not liking their job isn't something that I care about. She goes, well, disengagement isn't just about not liking your job. Let me take you through what the data is saying. She's trying to bring it back to this source of truth because, again, they're a data company. They love data. It's what they live.
She's speaking their language. A+.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And they use their own tool internally. So like her whole thing is like they're using this thing. So he goes,
can't even question the system because it's his system.
Well, he does. He goes, how do I know if this data is even real? I haven't heard anything about people being disengaged. So he doesn't even believe the validity of the information.
I'm stunned into silence. I keep forgetting that people can't see what is happening. What? Okay.
Yeah.
Continue.
And
I
so
apologize.
like he just called her a liar, or he just like completely shot down her credibility, right? So Megan is from the narrative that I heard of this story, right? Because remember, this is also like 10 years later, so it's like, you know, who knows exactly what was said. Like even like, you know, Megan herself was like, this is generally how it went. But
People
this is
always
where she
remember
was
how you made them feel, right? That's
well, exactly.
the
She goes,
quote.
this I remember like photographic moment. She goes, are you saying you think I'm making this up? So like this is the first time that she really like challenges him. She's not yes ending him. She's not trying to educate him on like stuff that's her job.
Yeah.
She's now fully like matching his energy. She's like, are you saying I'm making this up? And he goes, I'm saying this is news to me. And she goes, so this is the first time you're hearing anything about employees being disengaged, even though it comes up in every monthly exit interview, report, and feedback survey we do. And classic, like skeptical deflection. She goes, look, I just don't buy it. This is an HR problem anyway, not mine. I knew you were going to make that face.
I mean, I'm not surprised. I feel like we need like HR confessions bingo. Like whenever Kim says, I'm not surprised, but I am disappointed.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And so like as soon as he goes into like, this is an HR problem anyway, like again, this is, sometimes I read these stories and I tell them and my adrenaline is just like, it's right here. Like I'm very flushed. I'm very like, because I've been in these rooms before too. I've seen these things, I've experienced it. And it's just, and there's so many layers to it, right? There's power dynamics. There's,
you feel you.
Yeah.
I'm right now, I am taken back to the conference room where I had something similar said to me.
Me too.
I'm like, I remember where I was sitting. I remember who was in the room. I remember where the sun was streaming in through the window. It feels like shit.
Yeah. I once had a VP of sales, like I was presenting exit interview data, literally so much like this story, except it was specifically exit interview data about salespeople. And the VP of sales like stood up, slammed his fists on the table and was like, who even cares what you have to say? I'm like, I'm not.
Sir.
I'm like, first of all, I'm not paid enough for this. And second, I'm like, this is not me, what I have to say. This isn't fun. I was invited into this meeting to share my findings. You asked me to be here. So that tells me that you do care what I have to say. But anyway.
Sir.
So.
Oh, God. Okay.
So going back to our wonderful Megan, who's like now fully matching this energy.
You're sweet, Megan.
So
good job.
CEO deflects, like, this is an HR problem anyway, not mine. She goes, contrary to what you might believe, I don't manage these people. So this isn't just an HR problem. And this will only get worse and put everyone else here further behind if we don't address it. I have a solution to suggest. Would you like to hear it? Which I'm like, yes,
and
Megan.
this is in an exec meeting with like other leaders and managers too, right?
Yes.
So she's facing off against the CEO and there's an audience.
Yes, she and the CEO are fighting and they're all freaking watching them. They're not backing her up.
Power.
They're just staring. Yep.
Yes.
But you can also tell this happens a lot because this is just like, this is just par for the course.
Yeah.
So she goes, I have a solution to suggest. Would you like to hear it? And he goes, I can tell you right now that no matter what you're going to show me, the solution is we need to crack down and people need to work harder. Laziness is dragging us down.
Jesus Christ.
This guy's just the worst. Like,
I'm just the worst. What a
he's
tool
just
bag.
the worst. But he's not even unique. He's not even original. That's the thing. It's like, ugh.
Yeah.
So
I
Megan,
don't miss hustle culture. I don't miss it being out on my
same.
own.
Yeah. And like, that is kind of the benefit of working for Skill Cycle where I'm at is I'm like, this is what I left. When people are like, how did HR burn you out? I'm like, because I was sick of dealing with this all the time.
Yeah.
So to Megan's credit, she's like, okay, like I'm trying to, live in my power. I'm trying to assert myself. But she's like, let's bring this back. Let me bring this back to a point here, because at the end of the day, she wants a solution. So she manages to toggle to a slide that outlines her suggestions. And again, they all revolve around helping people feel more connected to their work and being more organized and connect that work to the bigger picture goals and strategy. Again, not asking for a dime of investment, not asking for a platform, not asking for a product. Just like, we just need to talk to each other and people just need to understand what their work is for. And we just need to hold people accountable to a common goal. Like, so
This should not be
she's like,
controversial.
exactly. And so she's, basically the way that she says it is she goes, what I'm suggesting is that we reintroduce some of our previous ways of working. Our engagement scores were higher under this model. And believe it or not, our productivity was actually better because people knew what work needed to be done and why. So she has the data to show that this model that they had before was actually better. And this data in this system that he invented that he doesn't believe, is what's showing this whole thing. And so this is where I literally just laughed when I got to this part. So he goes, Megan, this seems to have a lot of suggestions for everyone else in this room, but where is HR taking responsibility here?
For the whole fucking project?
Mm-hmm. Oh, for the whole thing. For all the disengagement. It's all Megan, obviously.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna let him give me a headache. I'm not gonna let him do it. This happened years ago. It didn't happen to me. I can release.
And Megan's fine now. She's fine now.
She has survived this. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So she goes, rightfully so. She goes, I'm taking responsibility by surfacing this threat and coming to this team with a suggestion. Your suggestion doesn't tell me anything HR will do differently here, Megan. Again, cutting her off, interrupting her. And I don't know about you. I have this thing when someone uses my name in like a dialogue when it's clear that they're addressing me, it's like, what are you trying to say there? Kim.
I feel like it. Well, Rebecca, I feel like this must have been taught in some sort of like business school negotiation. It feels like it's in the same category of things as like, to give yourself more of a leg up in a negotiation, make sure your chair is higher than the person's. Like, set your guest chair to a lower height than yours so that you can, like, it feels like in that realm of outdated intimidation tactics, right? Right, Rebecca?
Right, Kim.
It's so intense. Why?
And I feel weird because I'll address you when we're on these, like when we're recording too, because I want to make it clear, like, hey, Kim, I'm about to ask you a question about this thing. So mentally know that you're going to talk soon. So I'm not trying to intimidate you, for the record.
That's very different. Context is everything.
So Megan's getting pushed to, show what HR is going to be doing differently. And she's like, this right here is exactly what HR is doing differently. It's my job to surface things like this and align everyone. And like the subtext is that, before she didn't fight back when he was like pushing back on suggestions because she's giving monthly reports on sentiment and everything like that. So it's almost like she is doing something differently just by being more assertive. But he's like, oh, what are you going to do?
What I'm doing differently is I'm making sure that you have this information instead of trusting that you're going to read it when I send it to you.
Exactly. So now I feel like, kind of what you mentioned before about they must be going through some sort of like negotiation book or business school book. Like I'm noticing he does kind of start to segue into compromise, quote unquote now. So he goes, okay, here's what we're going to do. We can have an all hands and it's going to be about performance. People need to know that the way they're working is unacceptable and they need to get better. And then Megan goes, I'm telling you, it's going to backfire. And he goes, then they can leave. And here's where it can get really freaking complicated in HR, right? So the CEO is saying like, I don't care if they don't want to work the way that I want to work, then they can leave. This is why I'm saying this is timely, right? Because this story is like 10 years old, but we still hear stuff like this all the time.
All the time.
And so that directive is exactly the opposite of how Megan's success is measured. She goes, employee retention is one of my goals. A spike in turnover would be bad for several reasons. Like not only do I not want turnover, but that is literally how my own success is measured. And you're undermining me or overmining if that's a thing. So then he goes, well, then tell me how you plan to keep them happy while I keep them working. We're moving on to the next topic.
What? What?
Like he's decided. He's like, we're gonna have an all hands.
What?
I'm gonna crack the whip. You keep them happy so no one quits and everyone does their job. Does their job. We're moving on to the next thing because we're done here.
Make it make sense.
That is the sign of someone who's not intelligent but very confident. Just like does not want to pick apart the conversation anymore. Just cuts it off because he's like, I'm done. I want to talk about something else. And it's just so freaking disrespectful. I don't know how Megan didn't like flip the table. It's like, it's literally self-regulation. That is the only thing that stopped her.
I mean, self-regulation and like perhaps a lack of privilege. Like, she might have needed to keep that job. And you can't flip a table if you want to keep your job unless you're a rich white guy. But if you're Megan, you can't flip a table and keep your job. And my heart just breaks for her because it feels like, in like old timey royalty themed things. I'm thinking like gladiator emperors and like I don't know, Game of Thrones or some crap. Like when there's a conversation someone's trying to have and the rich leader is like, I'm bored, I'm done, enough of this. Very like Miranda Priestley in Devil Wears Prada.
All.
You know, like that's what it feels like. Is he was like, I'm done entertaining your wild notions.
Yeah,
I'm done listening to you. Goodbye.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh,
and it is funny because the way that power dynamics are when you are the person with less power, you know, usually that means that there's a different level of need that you might have for a job or for social standing, whatever it might be. And so it's like you learn those self-regulation skills because they're so critical to your survival. Whereas for those that are in those higher positions of power, they're just nice to haves because there are no consequences.
Right. It reminds me of a time I worked for a company that CEO and head of, I think it was like the head of marketing, or it might have been sales, or all three of them, it could have been. But anyway, they collaborated on an OKR for me as the VP of people, which was to raise our Glassdoor score by a certain number of points. And when I proposed,
flood it with fake reviews.
Well, they didn't outright say that, but when I suggested things that would improve the employee experience and ways we could encourage people to organically leave reviews on the things we had done, again, that's change management, right? I was met with like, no, we just need higher scores.
Yeah. They didn't want the things to change. They wanted the perception to change.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works unless you're willing to buy reviews, which maybe you are.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll pay your employees $50 a good review and let them make fake Glassdoor accounts and leave you like it's
because people don't catch on to that stuff.
No. And like, you know, to be clear, we did not go that far. We did not do any of those things. Instead, I was like, the only way to make this happen, the only way I will agree to take this OKR on is if we do it my way. Surprise, surprise, we just got rid of the OKR. It's like, fine, I won't have a goal. I don't care.
I mean, that's another way to go about it.
I'm still going to try to do my little job over here and try to make people's lives better at work by changing the way we do things. But
yeah, well, I'm just going to be over here doing my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And like, as soon as he just like, to Megan and the CEO, who I left him nameless because I don't think he deserves a name. No. But for this story, because this is just like it's almost like a caricature of that type of leader too. And that's just kind of where it's like, oh, how many times have we seen these? Especially at that time. I feel like they were so much more prominent at that time, or at least more free. I don't know. Maybe because they weren't worried about being canceled. So cancel culture, quote unquote, has like its benefits sometimes.
Yeah.
Where it's
my friend group calls men like this, we call them all Chad. We literally have an emoji in our little friend Slack group that just says Chad that we use whenever we're describing someone's boss that is being a Chad. So
So as like, you know, Megan officially gets dismissed and she does what I feel is so relatable. So she's in this meeting for another like 45 minutes. And what does she do? She just closes her laptop and just dissociates for the rest of the meeting. She's just like staring into the void, because here's the other part of it. She has to be in all of these meetings, but they never ask her for her thoughts or opinion. She had to fight for this like spot to even present anything. So it's like, why am I even here? I'm just going to sit here staring them. Why am I even here?
Right.
So as their, you know, meeting ends, like, you know, 45 minutes later, whatever. And as they're all trickling out, she gets a Slack message from her coordinator. She goes, "Hey, John is in your office. He's resigning and he wants to talk to you."
Okay.
So Megan takes a deep breath because, like, of course John is resigning. John could be anybody. There's like, she knew that this was happening. This has been a thing. So she takes a deep breath, walks in the direction of her office. When she gets there, she and John have a conversation about how he sees that his team is set up to fail because no one ever knows what's going on and they're all really burnt out. So Megan just listens and asks if he has any suggestions so she can get them the help they need. She just goes right into doing her job again. And what do you think are some of John's suggestions? This burnt out guy who feels like they can't succeed because no one knows what's going on.
Better communication, less silos or fewer silos, bring back the all hands meeting. Basically all the things that Megan is suggesting is my guess.
Basically everything John suggests is on the list of solutions that Megan brought to that exact team meeting that got dismissed.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And as like is typical in these types of things, he also flagged that there might be other people on their way out too, but he's obviously like not going to say who it is.
Right,
but he's kind of
course.
just like, you know, I'm not the only one other people are looking too. So again, it's just, she's got, you know, more data, more things that show her like this is only going to continue to get worse. She's our prophet, she's our oracle, whatever, you know, whatever it is. But all she can do is like, she thanks them for being open with her. She asks them to submit a formal resignation letter, email, like whatever. And she gets back to her day, which in a very cruel like pattern, which is kind of how these go. The getting back to her day involves extending a bunch of offers. And that's basically like what she does every day in this place, because she's always hiring, because they're always losing people. And that's just like the way that this goes. So for all we know, she's still living in that Groundhog Day today.
Oh,
actually, I know she's not there anymore. but if that CEO still is,
like,
if that CEO is still there, then whoever their HR person is now is probably living a day like that over and over again. I mean, unless there's been some sort of repercussion, like, I don't know, but brutal. Poor Megan.
I mean, God, so many things. Having to go back to extending a bunch of offer letters. I mean, it is really hard to extend a bunch of offer letters to people, inviting them into a culture that you know is toxic, or a workplace that you know is not good, and you're offering jobs to people and you're like, I'm sorry, you're gonna work here, is how you feel in your heart. But outside you have to be like, this place is great and here's why. It's hard to maintain that balance. It is your job to maintain that balance and to like sell people on the opportunity, even as you are working to dismantle the systems that are making that opportunity suck. I'm trying to say this without cursing too much, but like the mental gymnastics that you have to do to go from a meeting where you're saying, here's everything that's wrong and how I propose we fix it, to an exit interview where someone confirms, like affirms, I should say, all of those things that you suggested, to then making offers to people. Like, it's so much context switching, and it's such a emotional roller coaster.
It's why there's so much burnout. I mean, there's many reasons why there's a lot of burnout in HR, but it's like that type of stuff. And it's just like feeling lost in this cycle where it's so hard to change it, and it's so hard to break it. And like, there are ways. And so this is actually like, I want to segue into like, what do you think Megan did well, and what do you think she could have done differently? Because I love hindsight, and I love unpacking things from 10 years ago that like we could look at with our 10-year-old later eyes.
Well, and maybe there's people who are listening to this evergreen content and they're dealing with a similar situation right now. Yeah. And we can give them the benefit of our hindsight, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think she did well, and what do you think she should have done differently?
Well, I think she did very well by having so much data. I think that is great. And I don't know if her data included qualitative and quantitative. I'm just going to make an assumption that it included both, that she had some quotes interspersed in there, and it wasn't all just like hard data. Although if she did have quotes interspersed in there, it would be harder for the CEO to challenge. I think she made a mistake in not sending a pre-read. I'm assuming she didn't. Maybe she did, and they just didn't read it. But sending a pre-read to say, here's what I'm planning on presenting, here's what I want to talk about. Please, I'll review these slides in the meeting, but like, there will be a discussion happening at the same time. So make sure you're familiar with the content. And something I've been thinking a lot about, I'm preparing to run a workshop in about a month on storytelling in HR. And something I've been thinking a lot about as I prepare for that is bringing people along for the ride instead of presenting solutions to problems, because the problems that you've been thinking about day in, day out, you're obsessing over these problems. You've got the data. Maybe you've already like tried some things and they failed, or you've tried some things and now you want to like implement them. Even if theoretically your CEO should have known about these things because you were reporting on them weekly or whatever, like, they don't know. They're not, that's one of a million things that they have to think about. And the example I always use is with like engagement surveys. Nobody remembers what they put down in the engagement survey 6 months ago. So you have to remind them of the things that you're doing and how they tie back to what the employees have said. And so get the mistake, I think, or the like, what I would suggest she do in a future situation would be to, instead of presenting it as, here's the problem and I've already come up with a solution, to start that meeting with like, I'm going to share this data with you all about what I've learned. Now, I have some ideas for how I might approach solving them, but I want to start with your ideas. I want to hear what you have to say. And I will listen with an open mind. I'm not here to poke holes in your ideas, but I want you to see this data, and we can collaborate on potential solutions. And my role in this is to lead that discussion, and probably in many cases to lead the resulting work. But my job is not to make all of the decisions in a silo.
Yeah.
Which could be tough at this company since they seem to love silos. But like, my job is not to diagnose the problem, recommend all of the solutions, and then go implement them myself. My job is to bring this. So it's a little education on like, what is my role in this? Setting the scene of, here's who I am, even though you should fucking know me. Here's my role in this particular scenario. And then go into like, okay, so here's what I've learned. Let's pause for questions or comments. Let's move on to like, here's where I think, based on the data, my experience, our current resources, here's what I think we could start with. Here's like some low-hanging fruit I think we could start with. Here's some bigger things, like this could take 6 months of change management to make this bigger change happen. But really, like, it's this like over communicate mentality. It's like really getting them on board at every step, instead of, as you were saying, take this full circle. If you want to get people on board, it doesn't all happen simultaneously. It's not, here's the problem, here's the solution, we all now have desire and knowledge and we're ready to move forward. Like, you have to get that buy-in at like every single step.
Yeah, I completely agree. That was like one of the first notes that I was going to take too, is that, excuse me. And I think that we're learning a lot more about this now. Like, there's been more, even just, I was just at at a 3-day HR conference, and this was sort of woven through a lot of the session topics. There has to be more collaboration earlier on in the process, because that's how you get true understanding and buy-in. And I think that that's almost in direct contrast to how we used to be expected to work. Because it used to be like, don't come to me with problems, come to me with solutions, which is, in the 2010 era that the story takes place, like, that was the standard and the expectation. And I think this is like a classic showing of how that can go off the rails so much, because, and I think if at the time, I think that if she brought the problem first, she would have also gotten screamed at, because this is also just, because then she would have been expected to have a solution with this too, because that was just the narrative at the time. But it is a lot harder if you're, making it seem like you did all this work in a silo, and you jumped to all of these conclusions on your own. And, it's in the spirit of like, I did all this work so you don't have to. But there's a balance between, I compiled all this data, I have some thoughts and some ideas, like you said, can we talk about this? Yeah.
I love what you just said about like, I did all this work so you don't have to, because that is, I feel like you have seen me deep into my soul just now. I feel very called into the conversation. I used to approach a lot of things this way in HR, because I'm a former theater history nerd, like that. I was studying basically research. And I'm like, before I come to you with the solutions, please know that I have thought through many, many, many potential paths. Like, I have done my homework. I've studied the data. I've done my research. I've talked to other people. I've done like benchmarking. I've done research. Like, I've done all of this, and I'm coming to you with these solutions that are well-researched, well thought out. I'm not making shit up as I go along. Like, I did all this work, so you should just let me now continue forward.
Yeah.
But even in an environment where there is a lot of trust, like, you still have to get people on board. You still have to work on that buy-in, even if it's coming from a good place. And it took me a long time to learn that, because I was like, why can't you just trust me to do my job? Why do I need to prove everything to you all the time?
Yeah. Because people don't work that way. People are skeptics. They're skeptics, especially if like the thing that you're trying to show involves them changing habits or behaviors.
Right.
Because they're going to be resistant to that anyway. So it's like you almost have to incept their brain. Like, this is how this can go.
Right.
Yeah. And I think there's, the part that for me that I think could have been different, and the part that I'm like hearing as I'm like, this is another place where this went off the rails. This is also just sort of, saying, yes, this CEO is a very specific type of caricature. What I'm about to suggest may have made a difference, or it may have still just been the same thing. But if you're listening to this and you're looking for some tips and tricks based on what the story is, Megan doubled down a lot on disengagement as the problem. And she kept using this word, and it's like, what is the movie? Is it Princess Bride? When it's like, you keep saying this word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
It
like,
is.
Yeah. So she had sort of that. Yeah. And so she's like, disengagement. And that was where the CEO was like, I don't care that people don't like their jobs.
He was stuck on a word he didn't fully understand.
Yes. Yeah.
She needed to speak
therefore
his
didn't see it as a problem.
More.
Yeah. And I think it's not even about explaining it more. It's about translating the problem into the thing that the CEO cares about, which is that this project is at stake. So looking at it as like, our problem is that this big project is not on target. And there are reasons for that. I pulled what I can figure out, or what data I have access to understand what could be contributing to this problem. I'd love to talk to the rest of the team here and hear your input on what you think you're seeing from the way your teams are performing, what your teams are doing. Let's put all of this information together, because people data, sales data, product data, it's all part of the story. And that's where sometimes it can be really hard to remember, is like, we're not all telling like separate stories here. We're not all on side quests. Like, we're all trying to do the same thing.
Right. And I love the idea too of when you bring in cross-functional stakeholders into telling the story of why this is happening, then they are more likely to be bought into solutions, because they are already part of telling the story. They're part of shaping the narrative. You're saying, and you might uncover other problems that you didn't know about. Like, disengagement is probably not the only reason that the project is not meeting its milestone. Yeah. And looking at, this particular conversation probably wouldn't be the right place for this, but bringing in the larger problem of attrition. And if she's goaled against attrition and retention, and truly disengagement is the number one cause of retention or cause of attrition, either she needs a new goal, or she needs to be able to control disengagement. Right. And that's,
which no one person can do. That is a true team thing. Yeah. Right.
And so looking at like, okay, if we want to, if the problem is not this project getting done, if the problem is we have a higher attrition than we would like, then you can bring in, okay, well, what are we seeing in exit interviews? How does that compare to what we're seeing with the reason people are not performing their work? Or like, how are these things all related? And tell the story of how they're all related. And part of how you do that is by bringing in the like stakeholders from other departments.
Yeah.
It's a really good call out.
Poor Megan. I think now she knows this too. Because we learn as we go.
Years. Yeah. But it's like, just such a demoralizing environment to be in when you're like, but I'm doing the things right.
Yeah.
Like, no one will listen to me. Yeah. And it was so easy for me for so many years, the beginnings of my career, to just get mad that people weren't listening to me, knowing that I was right, and knowing that ultimately I was going to have an "I told you so" moment that I couldn't actually have because it would be unprofessional. And it's really hard in the moment to reframe when you're sitting there and you're like, this is going to be an "I told you so" 6 months from now if you don't listen to me, instead of like just being mad about it, which is, I often go there. I've personally, my own journey, I've been working on, how do I change that? Not how do I get you to start listening to me? That simple, but like, how can I change the angle of this conversation? How can we look at this from a different perspective? How can I speak your language more, or get more sensitive to what you care about in engaging with this problem or this story, instead of what I think a lot of us do, because we're so burnt out, we're so tired of fighting. Like you say, like, I am working so hard and for so long, please just listen to me. Like, please just trust me. Because like, who has the bandwidth and the energy and the capacity to then go back and be like, okay, thank you for not listening to me. Let me do the work now and take on the mental labor of reframing this whole thing in a way that you'll understand or care about or whatever. But trying to start from the beginning from a more like holistically collaborative standpoint instead of I'm right, I found the problems and I have the solutions. It's better approach probably.
I love that. And I agree. And I think that's a good takeaway for this episode of HR Confessions. Yes. And we're almost getting to the end of the season. This is episode 10. We've got 2 more episodes coming up for the season. So if you want to get your story in, I mean, we have some selected, but if you want your story told and you want to kind of hear, our takes on it, if you want to kind of, translate some of what you're struggling with and kind of share it with more of the world, we keep all these stories anonymous. You'll never know who they are, what company it is, or anything like that. So send us your stories. And we'd love to hear any other thoughts or input from anyone who's listening to this too. So, follow Kim and me on social media, email us at hrconfessions@skillcycle.com. And, we'd love to hear from you. So thank you for listening. And I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.